Welcome back to Transform Your Workplace. I've got my returning buddy, Nicole Blevins. How are you?
Hello, world. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. We're going to geek it out a little bit today. We're going to talk about a topic that I like talking about is the economy and where we're at from a market standpoint. There's just the last few years have been just bizarre.
Yeah.
Pandemic, all these buzzwords, great resignation, great reshuffle, what other quiet
There was a
quitting,
pandemic? What? I
right?
had no
It's just
idea.
It's just weird, right? There's just so much, it's like one thing after the other. And I
Yeah.
think it's caused a lot of employers, leaders, even employees to like question like what is happening and where are we going? Because you don't
Yeah.
obviously want to make a decision both as a business decision or as an employee and like upend your
Freeze
life, move across the
times.
country like you did, and then start with an employer, and then all of a sudden things are chaotic. So I think there's
Yeah.
just a lot of unknowns about where we're at right now as a society, and it's not isolated to the United States where we're at, or even Oregon where we're at, but
Yeah.
this is a global issue at this point. So we pulled out the
Yeah.
SHRM article, and it's
Yeah.
entitled "Labor Shortages Forecast to Persist for Years." And so that's a grabbing headline. So you and I
Yeah.
dove into this, and we just want to talk about it, right? So,
Yeah.
what are some of the driving forces behind the labor shortages right now from your perspective and even from the data that's out there?
Yeah. I think we've got a lot of older workers that are retiring. So there's just a labor shortage in general from people, the natural attrition of people just deciding to retire or pursue other things. I would say even the past couple of years with COVID and everything that happened, there were people that decided to retire early because of everything going on and just not wanting to work anymore because of just COVID and the scariness surrounding that and wanting to enjoy time with their families and be focused on family more. So there's a big part that's that unemployment just being really low for the past couple of years too has really contributed to this. And so there's just been a crazy labor shortage for a while. And the headline of this article saying that it's going to persist for years, I think really jumps out at me and a lot of people because I think we've been saying for a while now, oh, when this is over, when the market is, it slows down a bit and it'll get better. And I think the reality is it's not going to get
Yeah,
better. It's going to persist.
the demographics and aging population
Yeah.
issue, that is such a behemoth issue that not a lot of people talk about. There years ago I read an economist, he's a big demographics guy, his name's Harry Dent, wrote tons of books on this issue and just like how if there's not enough younger people being born, so we don't have
Yeah.
babies, and then as generations leave the workforce and you don't have many to come behind it, you're going to have a shortage of people. So then you have to get creative as a business. If you're an employer and you're looking for, maybe in a niche market and you're looking for talent that just isn't there, or you
Yeah.
have to pay 3x just to get somebody to leave a current organization because they're in a good spot like that. I think that's
Yeah.
where a lot of employers are at right now, is like you're having to pull people from other organizations, pay more because the talent supply doesn't exist outside of that.
Yeah, and I think it does take a lot more, like you mentioned, paying more for people to leave because it is a scary time right now. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people, or some people, are like hunkering down. They're comfortable in their current
Right,
position. They feel a sense of commitment to the organization, maybe, and just don't want to make a change because they're worried with the layoffs that they're seeing and other
right.
things that at a new organization, if they're a newer employee if there are layoffs, they may be part of that. So
Yep.
it's a risk for people, I think, to jump ship as well. And so it's gonna cost a lot more, or you'll have to have a really good employee value proposition to get
Yeah.
people to make that shift as well.
This is why it gets really complicated and why I love talking about it, because there's no right answer. All of this is connected in some way. So, like, for example, inflation, it's been a thing for quite a long time. And
Yeah,
so, as an employee, if I'm in a current situation and now you've got a competitor of the same industry willing to pay way more than what I'm making now. As a person who consumes things, house prices, interest rates, and I want a new car, you start to make life decisions because you might jump ship because of the money, because inflation's high. But in a roundabout way, it self perpetuates the inflation problem because of velocity of money. More money in supply and spending more and prices rising, it just perpetuates the issue. So constrained supply, whether of
yeah,
talent or goods and services, it does spike wages, prices, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and from like a human standpoint, if an organization is throwing 15,000, $20,000 more a year than what
I'll
you were
take it.
making before, psychologically you're like, I would be insane take that.
Correct.
How can I say no to that? So
Yeah.
it does perpetuate this problem and a lot of
Yeah.
organizations are just stuck in this rut of this labor shortage and costs increasing for them as a business and for employees as
Yeah.
well, of course.
I think that's what makes it challenging just because as a business, you look at it and you either you have to automate certain areas of your business or find different ways of doing things, hiring consultants, plug for Xenium, HR consulting, and payroll
Yeah.
process. You make decisions because if there's no talent available, you have to get creative with your business, whether it's AI is popping out, or you got consultants and you got other things that you can areas of your business if you can't find people. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
And then just you've got to listen to your employees too, because if you have people walking out the door, you've got to start collecting data and listening to your employees about what they need and what they want because the needs are constantly changing. And it's just, especially with the pandemic and remote work and work life balance, the
Yeah.
needs of people are changing. And as there's four generations in the workplace right now, the needs of every generation are so different. The voice of the employee matters. And that, I think that's what the Sherm article points out is like, you got to listen to your people.
Yeah, you gotta listen to your people, and it's so important, and I remember, like, hearing this story a while ago, and I don't know if it's a true story or not, or if it's just something someone shared in a keynote speech one time, so it's not my story, but about an employee who was an IT manager, had been with the organization for a long time, and he was unhappy, and he decided to resign. And when they talked to him and asked him, what is something that would have made you stay? He said something to the effect of the machine in the break room doesn't have a Dr. Pepper, and I drink a Dr. Pepper every day. And that really bothered me. And I would tell
Wow.
people how much I like Dr. Pepper, but like nobody like seemed to connect the dots, which sounds so like silly. It's just a
It's
silly little story.
trivial in some ways, but
It
it mattered to that
right.
employee.
But the point is, like, it's not always about the big things or about money, right? There are little things that you can do to show employees that you hear them, that you listen to them when they communicate that there's a need, because a lot of times people won't just come out and directly say to you exactly what they need or what they want. You have to listen and care and just hear those hints that you're getting in between those conversations or ask questions about what they need, what would make their work experience better so that they feel valued and cared for even in those little moments or opportunities to make a big difference.
So this article points out, and I don't know if they posed a question or if they actually truly believe that 2023 will be a year of normalization. Give me some
Yeah.
insight on what that means possibly, and do you see that as well?
Yeah, I saw that as well. And I agree. I think it will be a year of normalizing in the sense of we've been saying for a long time, oh, when COVID is over and things get back to normal, or when the labor shortage is over and things get back to normal. And I think normalization means we're normalizing this COVID situation, we're normalizing this labor shortage situation to the new normal, which is another buzzword of this is our new normal. And during this year in 2023, we really have to think about and focus about how do we live with this? How do we survive as a
Yeah.
business with this hand of cards we've been dealt? How do we make the most of that situation? How do we look at our resources and figure out ways to optimize, be more efficient with our time and resources to get through these challenges that every organization is facing right now. And back to your point about automation and how people it's an expensive resource, right? The cost of that is rising and competing for talent. So really thinking about are there opportunities to use AI or to automate and
Right.
create efficiencies and spend your money on those vital positions where you can't, automate. Speaking of
Yeah.
HR as an example, HR can be a really great strategic thinking partner, can help with leadership development, can do a lot of these really high value items. But a lot of organizations use HR internally to do filing, to
Right.
plan company events, to do other more administrative things that may not impact the bottom line. So finding other ways to do that and really spending that time, that energy, and that money on those higher value items that are really going to get you a good impact.
So great. Yeah. You don't want to automate the like strategic and critical thinking
Right.
items that especially involve people because people are
Mhm.
nuanced. So imagine automating something that really needs a personal touch and critical thinking skills versus there is AI, there is automation out there that is able to reduce the volume of repeated tasks and things like that
Yeah.
that can make things more efficient, but don't replace the important stuff with
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. And that's what's
So
so great,
yeah,
I think, about Xenium and the model that we have as well is like we're able to really provide those really high value services to our clients or streamline their internal administrative
yeah,
processes with proven processes that we've built to support them as well. So you're really spending the right time and energy of your company's leadership in the right places.
yeah, absolutely. So where do you think this is all going? Do you believe that we're going to normalize or stabilize this year? Do you think it's going to be bumpy for the next few years? What do you think?
Yeah. I think it's going to be bumpy for a while for the next few years, but I think like I mentioned before, we have to normalize that, the bumpy ride as a
Adapt
concept or
to
as the way things yeah, adapt, there you go, that's a better word for it, is we have to normalize adapting to that and
yeah.
being flexible and figuring out creative solutions and problem solving over this year and the next couple of years. So that's really where I think things are going. I think the emphasis will continue to be on employees being heard and their needs being met and there being a positive employee experience for them to really try to retain your top
Mhm.
talent. And I don't think that's going to go away for a while
No.
either.
I do think 2023 isn't, like, necessarily normalize. It's, like, the year of adapting. It's
Yeah.
agility. I think the organizations that will win in this environment are the ones that can figure out a way to keep their talent, to develop a pipeline of people that wanna work for them, so reputation in the market, and then
Yeah.
finding better ways to do things, more
Yeah.
efficiencies, or using different tools and automating repeated processes and things that aren't high value.
Yeah,
If
there's so
you
many
yeah, if you
go ahead.
figure out your operational way and you can figure out the people thing, that's the recipe.
Yeah, there are so many organizations that do things just because it's always been done that way.
Right.
We've always heard that, "Well, it's just the way we've always done it." So I think really, just like you said, shifting your mindset, adapting to, "Why do we always do it that way? Could we do it differently? And what would be the impact if we did do this differently? How could it transform our business or the way that we're doing work?"
Yep, absolutely. Nicole, this has been a fun discussion. Anything you'd say in parting on this conversation?
Just keep on keeping on through this year. Everyone will make it if we just adapt and are agile, like you mentioned. So,
I think reflection is also important, like,
yeah,
just recognizing where you're at, where you wanna go, and if you're clear about your vision, just bring your people along, keep communicating. It is bumpy, but it doesn't have to
yeah,
be all bad. It's just adapting to this weird
exactly.
environment for sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being on the podcast, Nicole.
Yeah, it was great.